Maybe you're starting freelancer, or maybe you've been freelancing for quite a while, but your growth is not really progressing that well. If that's the case, then probably picking the right niche, or better say, picking the niche, is something you're struggling with. In fact, you might be thinking that you've picked something when in fact you haven't. You haven't niched down enough. So in this video, I'm going to talk about the typical fears that people experience when trying to commit to something long enough before they start seeing the results. I will also share a story about somebody you know pretty well and how that one person was able to switch their company from going into complete disaster into one of the companies that we all know these days. I hope you will like this. Let's get going. And now let's look at why you could be scared of picking a niche. The first fear is fear of not doing the right thing. This is particularly common with starting freelancers, people that have just started freelancing or like on their early paths. So this is when you are not really sure you're doing the right thing, not really sure it fits you, and you kind of think that, oh, maybe there's this similar kind of service that I could offer somewhere else, and so you're a little bit undecisive. This is an okay fear to have at the start, but you don't want to befriend it, yeah? So you really want to stick to something as soon as possible. The next fear is the fear of losing out, and this is a very common type of fear that I see in freelancers that have been doing this for a while already. So they have a bunch of clients, and generally they seem to be coming from different niches. Yeah, so these freelancers would try to keep their doors open so that they wouldn't be stuck with any cash flow problems or anything of that nature. Yeah, so they're afraid to lose out because, they basically need money. So they keep their doors open. So this is the fear of losing out. Next one is fear of commitment. And this is something maybe mostly originating from something like the personality type. For example, I'm definitely one of these guys. Yeah, fear of commitment for me was pretty big. So I had to trick myself into committing onto something for long enough before I can start seeing results. But nevertheless, this fear of commitment is like, oh, am I going to stick with this niche for all my life or something like this? Am I going to be doing all the same stuff? Like, it's crazy, and it's really important to recognize this fear. It's like, oh, is it just a fear of commitment? Because if it is, you can work with it right away. The last one is the unmet needs. Yeah, so this is kind of similar to the fear of losing out, but I just wanted to bring your attention to this a bit further. Yeah, so when you don't have enough money, yeah, you are like, oh, it doesn't matter what work there is, I would take everything, yeah, just so you can keep yourself afloat. This is the unmet needs, and again, you have to be aware of this and make sure that it's okay to have this thing at the start again, but then you have to focus and work in one specific niche so you can grow your name, grow your brand, and become highly paid expert in that specific niche. Right now, I'm going to tell you something that you should probably do like yesterday. You absolutely must pick a niche. And here's a guy that is going to hopefully motivate you doing the same. Steve Jobs, the founder of Apple, left Apple in 1985. In fact, he got kicked out from the company. And up until 1996, he wasn't president at Apple. Yeah. He was doing all the other great things, including Pixar and producing those absolutely amazing cartoons, yeah, Toy Story and all the sequels. But in 1996, he came back to Apple, yeah, as the CEO, and then he discovered dozens of versions of the Macintosh, yeah. So in fact, it was just the different versions of the Macintosh, and they had like all those different numbers which would basically describe the model. And they had all different versions of Macintosh because, well, more choice is better, right? So that, customers can find something that suits them a lot better. And the result of that strategy was that in September 1997, yeah, when Jobs was basically just back into Apple, Apple was losing crazy amounts of money. Yeah, it lost more than $1 billion and was 90 days from being insolvent, yeah. So this quote comes from Walter Isaacson's biography of Steve Jobs. So Now he came back to the company and had those dozens of versions of the Macintosh and all those other products. And in fact, he had like all those teams presenting to him like during a few weeks, like a few weeks, and different teams would approach, like they would have meetings where those people would try to explain what their product does using some PowerPoint slides. And Jobs absolutely hated that. His point was that, well, you know, if you know what you're talking about, then you absolutely don't need PowerPoint. So yeah, that's not the reason why I'm using it right now. But anyway, and then he grew tired of that, and he came up with this question which he was asking: which one do I tell my friends to buy? And this can apply to a person as well, like to a freelancer, like yourself, like myself. Like if I tell about you to my friends, how do I describe you? Like, what's the one thing that you're doing? Like if you're a graphic designer, if you're doing SEO, if you're a writer, like if you're doing all of these things, like which one do I tell my friends about? Yeah. And then he didn't get a clear answer, so all he did was that he scraped 70% of Apple's product line. Yeah. And that was crazy because it generated like a crazy amount of layoffs. They fired like 3,000 people from what I can recall. And this was a crazy move, very insane, especially at the times of the crisis like this. So then Steve Jobs, at the meeting, he did something really cool. He went to this whiteboard and took this magic marker and drew two lines. First one was horizontal and the second one was vertical. Then he named the first column consumer, second column was pro. The first row he titled desktop, second row was portable. And then he looked at the team and said, your job is to make 4 great products. Yeah, so instead of being focused on a lot of different products that 70% of which weren't great, Steve had the entire Apple team being focused on just 4 great products. And this is how iMac came to be. This is how this Macintosh G3 came to be as well. iBook and the PowerBook G3 from Macintosh. Deciding what not to do is as important as deciding what to do. That's true for companies and it's true for products. And that's what Steve Jobs said. I would also add to that it's also important for people. So you absolutely must pick a niche, and you don't have much resources like Apple, don't have as much resources. So you have to really focus on one thing and put all your efforts, all your mental capacity, all your time that you got on one single thing. I hope this video has been helpful. Reach out to me if you need any help, and I'll see you in the next video.